Welcome back. As I slid the door open, a blackboard eraser loaded with chalk dropped down on my head the moment I stepped into the classroom. How do you load an eraser with chalk? The chalk dust went into my eyes, inducing a brief moment of agony. Oh ho 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 ho! How befitting for the truant Keiichi-san! Good morning to both of you, Keiichi and Nena. Good morning, Satoko-chan, Rika-chan. Not quite the mood for it. Not quite in the mood for it. I didn't really react to Satoko's trap. Satoko braced herself as I passed by, expecting me to attack her. She seemed a bit disappointed as I simply walked by silently. What is this? How discouraging indeed. Keiichi doesn't seem back to his usual self yet. Yeah, take it easy on him for today, okay? Suddenly there was a slap down on my shoulder. It hurt a bit. A slap down. That's an interesting phrase. Hey, Kei-chan, did you get enough rest? It was Mion. My mind was full with the stuff about Lena, but Mion was also a party of interest. Remember, Keiichi, that hawkish gaze from yesterday. Ah, yes. Yeah, morning. What's with that unenergetic greeting? Did you eat the mochi I brought you? How about that? Because I ate them, I'm like this. Those words were itching to be blurted out. I really just didn't have the appetite. I ate a few, but quite a lot were left over. Huh? What about the homework? Do you have an answer for which one was Lena's? I can't believe you'd forget your homework, Keiichi-kun. Ah ha 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 ha. Sheesh. Then we can't help it. Time for your penalty. Me-he-he-he-he-he. Why is she laughing like a witch? Flashing a lurid smile, Mion returned to her seat. There was nothing from our exchanges that would cause our classmates to suspect anything was amiss. But of course, anyone listening to our conversations up until this morning wouldn't see anything suspicious. That was why it was so frightening. They acted in a way that regardless of whatever happened to Keiichi Maebara, no one would ever suspect them. That fact had me terrified. Soon the teacher came. After she asked how I felt and took attendance, another dull, ordinary day began. Oh, end of chapter. That was quick. This free study period was a convenient time to consider where I stood. On your feet. I gently closed my eyes and pondered the ridiculous position I was in right now. First of all, what I shouldn't forget was how dangerous of a situation I was in. It's starting to waffle. This is the part I hate about visual novels, where they start to waffle and just repeat the same thing over and over to pad it out. Hurry up and move it along, chop-a-chop. I had fallen out of favor with them. After interacting with Oishi-san multiple times, I could see it as I was getting closer to the heart of the matter. The warning yesterday with the mochi was a good indicator of that. No, calling it a warning was just my habit of understating things. It probably had no meaning beyond stunting my progress and buying themselves some time. What does that even mean, Keiichi? Until they had a method of completely erasing me, they were just biding their time. Keiichi, if you're gonna be a victim of the curse, then you have a whole year. Come on, bruh. Even though they were keeping me under their thumb with threats, it didn't change the fact that I knew too much. The chilling sensation of my desk made me recall Satoshi Hojo, the boy who was using this seat until last year when he disappeared. Was he also similar to me? Did he learn something he shouldn't have, and was erased? Damn, I wouldn't let them get rid of me so easily. Never. But were they really trying to kill me? I've had these contradictory feelings for a while now. Even though I suspected them, I felt I had to cover for them. With all of their suspicious behavior, a morning like this just made it all seem like an elaborate hoax. No, that's just what I want to believe. Doubting my friends? Covering for them? My life was in danger. Or was it? Actually, I was debating the wrong point. Given my current situation, those points were something that should have been deliberated on a long time ago. But really, Lena and the rest of them, were they actually aiming to kill me? The little voice inside me continued to torment me with these unresolvable trains of thought. It's tormenting me as well. Come on. Are you an idiot, Keiichi Maebara? Yes. The answer should be obvious. But maybe that sewing needle might have just been an accident, right? How could you screw up and drop a sewing needle into a piece of mochi? The benefit of the doubt can only go so far. Both Dena and Mion had acted and behaved suspiciously, but maybe it was all some sort of misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? It wasn't just suspicious, it was outright ludicrous, right? Dena just corrected me for lying, and Mion only asked me about what I had for lunch. Lena was standing outside our door eavesdropping for a good hour, you know. She was probably just waiting for my phone call to end. For a whole hour, outside your room. And is it normal to go home afterwards without saying anything? ... You heard from Oishi-san, didn't you? About what Lena did at her former school. But at the hospital, she said it was Oyashiro-sama's fault. Cut it out, Keiichi Maebara. Don't you realize they're out to kill you? I inadvertently blurted those words out loud. Oh no, I said the quiet words out loud. Hearing myself say that so directly left me dumbfounded for a few moments. Afterwards, I had to look around to check if anyone else had heard it. My little soliloquy, is that how you pronounce that? Cut a little too close to the truth. Even though I could feel the murderous intent from Nena and the others, part of me somewhere was still trying to deny that. This late in the game, such hesitation could be fatal. I knew that. But I was just your average student, a man living his normal, ordinary life. Do you think I could suddenly believe that my friends, who I had been happily laughing together with up until last Sunday, now intended to kill me? Right? You're too soft, Keiichi. This time I remembered to keep my voice down so only I could hear it. Why do you have to say it out loud to begin with, Keiichi? That's not very smart. There was only one thing I now understood. I was too soft. Time to hit the gym. I didn't completely understand how dangerous Dena and the rest of them were. No, I wasn't trying to understand. I was too soft for not listening to Oishi-san when he was earnestly showing me the heart of the matter. I didn't listen because I was too busy pretending to be dejected. I didn't comprehend it. I was just running away. I didn't comprehend it, so nobody had any notion to try and kill me. Why is he waffling? I needed to get rid of such naive thoughts. As I made that resolution, I heard a bell signaling the end of class. So soon. The day was already over. I didn't recall eating lunch or doing anything in class. My friends were putting their desks together in preparation for club activities. Not long ago, I would probably have happily jumped into that circle. My, Keiichi-san! How rude of you to even think about leaving. The way Satoko spoke was so typical and familiar. It almost physically hurt. Huh? Keiichi-kun, is today not a good day? I wonder. And we were going to win big together. Oh. Seeing Nena's expression, which said she was really looking forward to today, was hard to take. Hey Keiichi, maybe Oishi-san is just some enormous jerk trying to separate me from the others by lying to me. Slap. Trying to expunge such weak-minded thinking, I slapped myself in the face. As you do. Keiichi-kun? Yeah, was Dena really trying to kill me? I wish someone would tell me it was a hoax. I didn't care if it actually was one or not. I just wanted someone to say it was. Keiichi, it's a hoax. There you go. You're welcome. Gah, yet another weak-willed thought. How did I ever become this naive? Are you alright? Does your head hurt? Apparently that was how my inner dilemma appeared to Dena. You're pale. Can you make it home by yourself? Maybe I should accompany you home, I wonder. No, it's okay. Sorry. I can get home by myself. Just have the meeting without me. Upon hearing that I wasn't going to participate in the club meeting, Mion pouted unhappily. Since Kei-chan was so bent on a revenge match, we were even going to play that deduction game from before too. Keiichi-san doesn't have the burning desire for a rematch? How pathetic. I wouldn't fall for some dumb taunt. Without even a real retort, I just grabbed my bag and was about to get up. Someone's hand perched itself gently on my head. Aww. Keiichi doesn't seem to be well. How very unfortunate. It was Rika-chan. She was stretched up as far as she could, doing her best to pat my head with her petite hand. It felt so nice, which made things even harder. Sorry, everybody. See you. That's all I said as I quickly left the classroom. They said something to me as I was leaving, but I couldn't make it out. I managed to make it all the way to the entrance in that state of mind, took out my shoes, put them on, and went forward. Forward. Harden that heart, Keiichi Maebara. They were, for some unfathomable reason, trying to kill me. They were plotting something dubious, watching my every move. But I couldn't hate them. Because weren't they my friends? Part of me lamented my naivety. I don't know how to pronounce that. While another part lamented the fact that I had lost something important by lamenting over it in the first place. That's a lot of lamenting. It felt like my consciousness was being ripped out of my body. If this is what Oyashiro-sama's curse was like, then it was just too harsh. Hidoi. Hey, Oyashiro-sama, I was wrong for not believing in your curse. But I believed in it now. The constant changing of the tenses in this really bothers me. Completely. Your curse does exist. So seriously, give me a break. I beg you. Come on. Dinner was unusually bland. Rude. You didn't make it. It had no flavour or aroma. The miso soup that normally tantalised my appetite instead tasted like nothing but boiled water. Go and make your own dinner then. Dad was eating with us that night. It was a rare occurrence in this household. When he got into his work, he ate and slept on his own schedule. My dad never cared about the time. Since my dad was at the dinner table, it either meant he had just reached a good point to take a break or he was in a slump. So, yeah, he just doesn't understand the motivation creators have. Your partnership was just a verbal agreement, wasn't it? If it's so hard to agree on things, why not just end it? I feel like it's an industry with a lot of back scratching, but when it gets in the way of business... I wasn't able to pick out much of what my mum and dad's conversation was. I added some words in there, but it all worked out in the end. But I could tell it wasn't a very pleasant topic. That, of course, made the disgusting food even less appealing. Excuse you, how ungrateful. Staring listlessly at the exchange between my parents, my mind wandered off to the same thought processes I had going all day long. No, Keiichi, stop. I really don't care about your waffling. Friends close to me. No, they used to be friends, but I could no longer trust them. Right now, I was greatly lacking in allies. People I trusted, people I could depend on when push came to shove. They were something I just didn't have. Having just one ally would have been incredibly reassuring in the currently hopeless situation I was in. Oishi-san. I put down my chopsticks and looked over at my parents who were still talking about work. The first course of action that came to mind was to tell my parents everything. Currently, there wasn't a single person from Hinamizawa I could trust 100%. That meant the only people I could trust were my parents. But if I told them everything that happened up until now, would they understand? Nena, for example. That neighborly Nena, who was so diligent in looking after me, came to get me every day and sometimes brought over a share of what she made. How could I explain that she wanted to kill me? No matter how I explained, it would probably be difficult for anybody to comprehend. My somewhat eccentric dad wouldn't understand, and my high-strung mum would probably drag me off to a psychiatrist in the blink of an eye. Sadly, that was the amount of trust that existed in our relationship. Keiichi, it sounds like you are the problem. Even if they did come to understand, what could they possibly do? Unless they could uncover the truth, they wouldn't be able to protect me. No, by informing them of these unnecessary things, I'd be putting my parents in danger as well. Considering that the victims in past incidents were often married couples, I couldn't even joke about it. For the entire Maebara family to have an accident or to just vanish into thin air, it was easily possible in Hinamizawa. What was important here was that knowing something unnecessary put you in danger. The most unsettling question was, how did they know that I knew? As long as they didn't know, my parents might not fall victim. That was one way to think about it, I guess. At least it was like that in my case. He's just waffling word salad. After I found out, things started becoming odd. In other words, it meant the following. As long as my parents didn't know anything, nothing would happen to them. He's just waffling word salad over and over and over and over and over and over. As long as my parents were here, this house would be a safe haven for them. I knew these were just assumptions based on conjecture on top of conjecture. Wanting this house to be a safe haven, that was the pinnacle of my weak-willed method of thinking. This is absolute nonsense, Keiichi. Chop chop, hurry it up. I had to concede that it was not completely safe, it was only safer than the outside. I knew that I couldn't rely on my parents, ? No, I couldn't risk getting my parents involved. Then the only person who could be my ally would be Oishi-san. Him and him alone. He was the only person who understood the situation I was in. Took you a while to get there. He didn't care so much about my safety, but he was without a doubt passionate about solving this case. It was a bit frustrating. You're frustrating. Oishi-san was basically the whole reason I was in this mess. Now to get out of it, I had to rely on him. Meaning it was all going according to his devices. I get like a trigger from back when I read Umineko, and they just repeated the same things over and over for like 60% of the chapter. Meaning, in short, to summarize, it was just my job to look appetizing while bobbing in the waves as bait. What? Then when the fish started gathering around, Oishi-san would pull up the big haul. It was slightly infuriating, but even I thought that was the best course of action. So then what should I do? Hurry up. Patience was the first rule of fishing. Yeah, I'm not fishing, hurry up. Just keep waiting until the fish actually bites. But I wasn't simply bait. There were lots of ways for me to struggle before being devoured. When they struck, I needed to somehow dodge enough and tag out to Oishi-san. No question, it was going to be hard. The timing to bring Oishi-san in would be difficult. He was in the city, not Hinamizawa. So if I phoned him in my moment of need, it would take him about 30 minutes to reach me. Oh, there's some foreshadowing. So I needed to run away for those 30 minutes. For example, if we set up a rendezvous point for dire situations or something, I'd just have to hide there until Oishi-san arrived. Okay, I can almost see it now. I was still being chased around in the dark by boogeymen, but now I knew which way to go. I would never have imagined this would be so reassuring. Oh yeah, it would probably be best if I had a concealed weapon. No, for when things got rough. No, absolutely not. Typically, that would call for a switchblade. Keiichi, take a step back and touch some grass. But that wasn't too reassuring for combat. Also, since it was recognized as a weapon by the public, that also wasn't good. Yeah, you reckon? Really, when the time comes, a long weapon like a bat would work in my favor. I wonder where I can get one of them. I remembered there was a metal bat at school. I could be confident with that when push came to shove. If I pretended I was practicing my swing, then it wouldn't be suspicious for me to always carry it around. I mean, yes, it would. I could go to school early tomorrow and secure it. Just possessing a weapon may be enough to deter them. Probably not. Also, one more thing. Insurance. It could be something like a note or memo. I could write down everything that's happened as a sort of journal. In case I suddenly vanished, the journal would be left behind. With my journal in his possession, Oi-san should be able to avenge my death. Avenge me! I left my parents engrossed in their conversation about work and went back to my room. Oh, he sure does waffle. I tore out a piece of paper from a notebook and made my way to my desk. Last time I wrote a journal was for summer homework in elementary school. In the off chance something bad happened, the police could use my diary as a lead. So I should only write down the facts. How should I start? I jotted down my thoughts as they came. I, Keiichi Maebara, am in fear for my life. It made me laugh nervously. It was a line that showed up often in detective stories. I never even dreamed that I would be in the type of situation where I'd write it myself. I do not know why they are after my life. Nena and the others were suspicious, but I had no proof. And that's why I couldn't write anything more. I laughed wryly at myself for writing such a passage draped in mystery. Would the police be able to get the hint from reading this enigmatic passage? I could only pray they would. What I prayed for the most, though, was that this journal never needed to play its part. Here, I laughed nervously. Yes, you've been doing that constantly. It was too simple, so I wrote down one more line I just thought of. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Was that too much? I probably shouldn't write more than that. If I wrote any more, then it would seem like I was just delusional. In order to appear to the reader that the person who had written this was of sound mind, I chose not to write anything else at that point. I just needed to add more as I learned more about the truth. I folded the paper and thought about a place to hide it. By hiding it somewhere obvious, there was the chance that they would uncover it instead. On the other hand, if it was in too obscure of a location, then there was the risk of nobody finding it at all. In the end, I decided to take the clock off my wall and stick my folded note on the back of it with scotch tape. After that, I put the clock back into its normal position. Yeah. It didn't look like anything was hidden behind it. Now I needed to set it up such that if anything happens to me, my parents could find it. I looked at it from countless different angles until I was satisfied, and I made my way downstairs. My parents were still talking about work. It didn't look like it was going to end anytime soon, so I cut in. Sorry to interrupt. I have something I want to talk to you about. I'd never started off a conversation like that before, so my parents were both startled. They stopped talking and turned towards me. What is it, Keiichi? I have a favor to ask of you. Please listen. Just in case, yeah? If it's not urgent, can we do this later? Right now, Mummy and Daddy have something urgent they're talking about. I didn't think their talk was more urgent than mine. In any case, I stated my request. Just in case, okay? If I die. Both of my parents' eyes went wide as saucers. If I die, I want you to put the clock on my wall in my coffin. If they did that, then they'd probably find it. My memoir. Both my parents remained wide-eyed, not moving an inch. I couldn't blame them. I made that clock in shop class, and I really like it. So please. Smooth. Nailed that explanation. What's the matter? Keiichi? Did something happen? Mum was finally able to ask me with a questioning gaze. Of course, this was a normal response for when somebody's son suddenly talked about a subject like this. I felt bad about making them worry, but right now I just wanted them to think about the clock in my room. With the awkward mood leaving the room in silence, I decided to go back up to my room. I want to get to school early tomorrow, so I'm going to bed. Good night. Yeah, that's not strange and unnatural. Saying only that, I left the living room. I needed to get to school early tomorrow and secure that bat. I should make today the last day I went to school with Denna. As I climbed the stairs, I heard my mum call my name, but I pretended not to hear her. It wasn't something I could talk about with my parents. If I talked about it, it would only make things more dangerous. The fight that had begun was mine and mine alone, and I couldn't rely on anybody. I wouldn't be killed. Not when I still knew nothing. New tips. Not feeling so hot. Same. Ooh, chasing shadows. Alright. Keiichi-kun's been feeling down lately. Maybe he's in a bad mood. I wonder. Maybe he's on his period. Me-chan, that's gross. What do you think? Don't know. Could be that Kei-chan. Maybe. I don't know. That day, Kei-chan was in that car talking to some tubby middle-aged guy, right? Yeah, no mistake. That Oishi, he probably fed him something fishy. He was so serious. Keiichi-kun's face was so pale. You see, you might not know this, but he's actually the messenger of Oyashiro-sama. Huh? What do you mean? Whenever he shows up, someone is demoned away. No lie. Oh? Is that so? The year before last, when Nika-chan's mum drowned, right? Right before that, she was visited by Oishi. Now that you mention it, it happened before Satoshi-kun transferred out. Transferred? Ah ha 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 ha. You're so sweet, Nena. So, this time he's appeared before Keiichi-kun. So Keiichi-kun is going to be demoned away too. An empty silence hung in the air, and then it was suddenly interrupted by loud laughter. Huh, that was a cool tip. I like that one. Short, gave pertinent information, and slightly terrifying. This was the first time I'd ever woke with such clarity. It was 5:59, just moments before my alarm would go off. I was amazed at the precision of my internal clock. I had made preparations for the next day of school before I went to bed. I changed quickly and descended to the deserted lower floor. It appeared that my mum was still asleep. Neither breakfast nor lunch was ready. Yesterday, I just unilaterally declared that I would be leaving early today, so it couldn't be helped. I slathered jam on some bread and topped it with instant cocoa. Why would you do such a thing? That's horrifying. Just as I was finishing up breakfast, Mum rose groggily from her slumber. I'm horrified at his idea of breakfast. My, Keiichi, you're up early? Is there some sort of school event? Not really. Answering bluntly, I picked up my bag and stood after stuffing 2 slices of bread down my throat. You should chew first. You're leaving already? What about lunch? If you don't wait a bit, I can't make it. If I waited for her to make my lunch, then it would end up being the same time as usual. If I did that, it would raise the chances of me running into Lena and Mion on the way. Yes, from today onwards, I was going to go to school alone. So you're going to starve every day. That seems like a solid plan. I'll be fine for today. Then what will you do for lunch? I'll slip out and buy some bread or something at the store. Delicious plain bread. Really? Then here's some lunch money. Be sure to bring me back the receipt. I took the 1,000 yen bill from Mum and slipped it into my pocket. That's a lot of money for bread. It's pretty early. Is Dena-chan up this early as well? No, just me. Did you tell Dena-chan that you're leaving early? I have no reason to tell her every little detail now, do I? Finding it difficult answering the onslaught of questions, I made an annoyed face. Tell Dena that I went ahead when she comes. Keiichi, wait. It's not that I didn't trust my parents, I just couldn't rely on them. He's so rude. They couldn't help me. I could only hope that they didn't get involved. It was safer that way. My mum's annoying voice, seriously, Keiichi? Seriously? Was cut off by the slam of the door. For the first time since I moved here, I headed down the road to school alone. All right, we're going to end this episode here. This seems like a good point. We're on our way to school. Keiichi is clearly losing the plot, although there might be a little something more to it, obviously. But he sure does waffle a lot of word salad. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you again in the next one. See ya.